Foreign nationals marrying South African women in exchange of citizenship is not a new thing. Now, this is something that we've seen a lot of times. I remember growing up, that used to be a trend that foreign men would give money to South African women in exchange of, their hand in marriage, in short. And in most cases, this is not the normal marriage that whereby we have parents involved and everything. It's usually a marriage whereby they just go to home affairs and then, they just sign the papers and that's it. So I think this is usually based off the fact that a lot of South African women who ended up marrying foreign nationals in exchange of money are usually those who are in disadvantaged situations. For an example, are those who are, who have issues with poverty, are those who are struggling to make ends meet. So a lot of times there's foreign nationals would promise this ladies money and security in exchange of them getting married. So I used to think about how this actually works, you understand, because I didn't really understand that why would South Africa have a law that grants people citizenships based on the fact that they just get married, because that used to be a trend. And we knew that a lot of South African women, as we speak right now, are still married to these foreign nationals, and it's a decision that they did while they were still young and while they were still like in hard situations. So here is how it works: marrying a South African citizen does not automatically grant citizenship. A foreign national married to a South African citizen can apply for permanent residency after a certain period of marriage and residency, and then citizenship after further requirements are met. So this is something that happens a lot. They marry this South African young women, so that automatically apparently grants them, residency in South Africa. They get to stay in South Africa because apparently there's something called a spousal visa. So it says that marrying a South African allows a foreign national to reside in South Africa but not immediately become a citizen. They typically need to apply for a spousal residence permit or visa. So this permit allows the foreign national to live in South Africa with their spouses. So it's basically meaning that if your wife is here, then you have the right to apply for a visa to stay here. So usually that's what happens. A lot of them do not really get married with them because they love them. They do not get married because they want to marry them or anything. They just get married because it's a solution to your current situation. So a lot of them get married based on their current situations. At the end of the day, it ends up being a problem for them in future, because while you're still married, then you cannot marry somebody else until you divorce that person. And we know that a lot of them usually get married and after that they leave these ladies. So in order to divorce, they have to find those people, and that's how it goes. Marrying for money in exchange of permanent residency or citizenship has its downside. The first downside is exploitation and abuse, which is something that we've seen a lot of times. Sometimes they leave without even keeping their end of the bargain. So they might promise you money after everything has been official, and once that thing is official, and they leave you. So also there are legal troubles to it. We know that it is illegal to marry someone that you do not love, to marry someone for the sake of money or for the sake of gaining citizenship to a certain country. And that does not impact only the foreign national, it also impacts you as a person who married this foreign national. So it is possible that you can get jailed for it. It's a crime, so you might get jailed and you might even lose the ability to apply for certain government jobs in South Africa. And a lot of companies wouldn't even look at you because you might be blacklisted also. So that's how big of a problem this whole thing is. There's also emotional damage. Being in a loveless or fake marriage can hurt a person emotionally. Over time it can lead to depression, low self-esteem and trauma, especially if the partner mistreats them. A lot of them who get into these unions do not really know what to expect. Some of them get into marriages with these people hoping that it is love, and then they have found their soulmate. Like I said, a lot of them who are in these types of relationships are women from villages, women from, disadvantaged locations. So that's basically usually the women who would opt for this because they feel like, I've met somebody who can change my life and everything. So they end up, going all in, and at the end of the day it feels, it ends up to being, just a marriage for the man to get his citizenship. And once he gets it, then he starts mistreating the women, and he starts, doing all of these bad things to her. And at the end of the day, she might fall into depression because she came into it thinking it was genuine, because some of them get into this marriage unions thinking it's a genuine thing. Some of them don't really, some of them just do it in exchange of money, but some of them get into it thinking, it's a genuine thing. So it's basically a love scam, if I may put it this way. So another disadvantage is that there are no long term benefits. Once the foreign partner gets what they want, which is usually citizenships or passport, they might leave. So one of the biggest issue is child custody problems. So if a child is born into the marriage and the foreign partner leaves or takes a child, things can get complicated, especially if they leave the country. International custody battles are hard and expensive, and if you married somebody hoping that they would take care of you, it's usually the case that you cannot do that yourself. So that's the also another problem. I think there was once a case of a man who left with a child, and at the end of the day, the law protects him because it is his child that and the child was born in that marriage. So it means that he has the right to go with the child wherever he wanna go with the child. So that's one of also a very big problem, something that we've seen a couple of times. So it's very, this is becoming a big problem. There was a video that I'm about to show you guys of a man who was caught at Home Affairs trying, to engage into this marriage, and apparently he had a document, the ID, certified ID document of the lady he was supposed to marry, but that lady was not present in the scene. So he was, approached by PA, I think it's Patriotic Alliance. Yeah, and apparently he's a Pakistan who was arrested by the PA members for illegally marrying a young South African girl for citizenship. So they say Section 42 of the Immigration Act makes it illegal to aid, abet, assist, or enable an illegal foreigner to remain in SA, which means that the lady is in trouble as we speak. So let's just watch the video.
When he married a young girl without the permission of the parents. He married this young girl for citizenship. So we are here at Home Affairs now, Remokapile, to go and revoke this marriage.
Yeah, so this is I think this is one of the things that leads to the problems. Sometimes the women who agree to do these things are usually, cornered into making these decisions because they don't think it through. I once had a situation where I was offered money. I won't even go into too much details, but I once had a situation where I was offered money. So, in exchange of me going to Home Affairs and saying that a certain lady's child was mine, and the thing is that that lady was much older than me, and that lady was from Uganda or something, I'm not sure. That lady was much older than me, but at that age I think I was still 19 or 20. And then, she promised money. I was promised a lot of money, and a part of me thought about it, but the thing is that I kind of like to think things through before I take a decision. So I take time, I inquire and everything. So while I did the inquiry, the first question that I was asked was that, how are you gonna explain the age gap between you and the mother? And I was told that if this thing, like if for an example you agree to do this, then you are practically committing fraud. So it's usually that same situation with me. That time I was still trying to find my feet, I was still trying to hustle. So an opportunity to get money would an opportunity to get money was something like it was a blessing in disguise. So usually they take advantage of people who have problems with money, people who cannot take care of themselves, people who just have problems making ends meet. So hence in most cases parents are not involved because it's an emotional game. Like I said, it's similar to a love scam. They would convince you that if you do this, your parents, if you tell your parents, maybe they will disagree, and then you won't get married or anything. Once you marry me, then you will inherit 1 2 3 1 2 3. So it's basically a love scam, and these people are smart. They do not want you to involve people who might advise you otherwise. They don't want you to involve parents, because we know that with parents, marriages, it's a long process. You do not just marry somebody, you do not just go to home affairs. There has to be negotiations, and after negotiations, the families have to meet and everything. They don't want that because it's a long process. They do not have any real family here, you understand? So usually this is the case. They would engage in this thing with only the girl, with only the lady, and they do not include the parents, because once the parents get involved, then it's another story. So that's what usually happens, and it's said that women usually fall for this, and then they usually give them their IDs. The thing about an ID is that once you give somebody an ID, there's a lot that can happen, you understand, especially if it's certified. There's a lot that can happen. The person can commit fraud with your ID. They can open up accounts. They can create loans with your ID. So it's very sad that people still do not understand how important it is to keep your ID safe, and how important it is not to give it to anybody, because I can get loans with your certified ID, because it's certified. It proves that I had the real copy. You understand? So it's a problem that I think a lot of we are facing in South Africa, and it's gonna take a long time. As much as unemployment is still this high, as much as people are still struggling to make ends meet, then at the end of the day, people have no choice but to opt for these situations that are presented to them, because at that point they are in a how should I put it, in a desperate situation. So being in a desperate situation leads you to desperate situations lead to desperate measures, in short. So it's gonna lead you to take desperate measures based on what you're feeling right now, based on what you're going through right now. So I feel like, also, as much as we blame the foreigners who do this, they are just taking advantage of the situation that's currently in South Africa. They are taking advantage of the fact that people are struggling to get jobs. They are taking advantage of the fact that people are struggling to afford basic things, basic necessities. So they are taking advantage of that and using that as a way of convincing these ladies to agreeing to, marrying them in exchange of money. So that's a very big problem.
Hello? Hello?
So here they are just attempting to reach the lady who was like, whose ID has been found with this man who is in a shop right here.
Bunjani Lorenche? Bunjani Lorenche? Ngiyaphila. Lorenche ukhuluma noTrevor la ne? Ngicela ukuhlangana ne-ID yakho la. Ubani boyfriend yakho? Ubani igama le-boyfriend yakho? Ubani? Kuron. So if I may ask you, i-ID yakho certified ifunani la kuron?
We are saying to SA government, "Gore, this is the mess that they have created. We are now expected to deal with this nonsense. SA government. These people come here, these men come in this country without their women. How about more? They do whatever to survive.
So like I said, indirectly, the South African government and the South African economic situation kind of enables these things to happen. Usually we know that it's an issue of immigration, but I'm not gonna touch on that. I'm just gonna focus on the economic part. So it also allows this to happen directly or indirectly.
ID yakho, i-copy ID yakho certified. Yini niyashada no Ronnie, or what's going on?
So the big issue here right now is that marriages are not supposed to be a business exchange, in short, especially for citizenship. With citizenship is that it's basically committing fraud, and it's basically breaching the immigration laws. But in South Africa, a lot of women find themselves marrying Pakistans. They find themselves marrying Nigerians, and they find themselves marrying, Zimbabweans. In exchange, they give them citizenship. They marry them, because marrying a person is basically enabling them to apply for permanent residency, and it gives them an opportunity to apply for spousal visas, you understand? So usually they enter into these agreements while they are offered money, and then after getting money, they exchange that for marriage. So that's basically like buying citizenships from them. So it's a big crime in South Africa. It's not allowed, but this is a case that we've seen a lot of times. It has happened many times. It has happened in villages whereby people are struggling. It has happened with women who had no idea that this marriage was illegal. So some of them are there emotionally because they don't understand that they are being used to get residency. Some of them are really in love with the guys who they marry, but at the end of the day it's usually just the guys playing an emotional game so that they can get citizenship. We've seen that a couple of times. Ladies have been left after getting married. Ladies have been left after getting pregnant. So there is a lot that has happened in most cases when a man marries them and then they give them their IDs and everything. After marriages, the men would usually relocate to a different location, and then the lady would be left stranded. And once you are married to a foreign national, there are certain things that you won't be able to get. And if it's found that you got into that marriage in exchange of money, then it's illegal because you might not be able to get even government jobs in the future. And a lot of them who get into these types of marriages are usually young girls who are thinking about, now I just need money now. So if he offers me 10,000 in exchange of my certified ID now, then it won't affect me in the future, or maybe I'll deal with it when that time comes. But the thing is that once you're married, and there's nothing you can do about it unless you guys both agree on divorce, because divorce is a two-way thing. You cannot divorce a person who does not agree to the divorce. You understand? So it's a very sad situation that's happening here in South Africa. But I hope that South African ladies will realize how bad this is and how illegal this is, and how it might eventually get them into trouble once that situation surfaces to light. So that's the problem that South Africa is dealing with right now. People getting married in exchange of money. They sell their citizenship in exchange of money. So that's also a big crime. Let me know what you think about this situation in the comment section. Till next time, peace.